The New Orleans Saints. Talk about a team that pretty much played out the season as perfectly as you could want in 2025. They obviously were not a good football team, but the young guys showed promise, and the first time head coach, Kellen Moore, showed buy in, that his team bought into him, which is very key to me. I was someone who was very, very publicly speaking about how much Kellen Moore is impressing me as a head coach last year because his team bought in. It reminded me of first year Dan Campbell. But that brings me asking one question. How much further along are the Saints this year? Is their roster so much better that they can compete in the NFC South? Or is it more of the same with a lot of errors made by the general manager still going on right now? Well, today I'm going to talk about it and preview the 2026 New Orleans Saints. The Saints were active in free agency, going out and bringing in David Edwards, an addition I really, really like as I thought he was a very good stabilizing guard for the Buffalo Bills. They paid him a decent contract at $15 million a year at $45 million fully guaranteed, which means this is essentially a 3-year contract with an out after the third year, which I think is very crucial considering he is 29 years old. So that out would come at the age 33 season, which is pretty good. Then we kind of nosedive into a contract I really, really do not like. That's Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne to me is a fine player, but I've never really cared for him as the full-time lead back of an NFL team. I've never really cared for him as this guy who should be paid like a top 10 running back in the league, because I don't view him like that. I think he is well better suited as a two-back change of pace type guy behind a bruiser. And the Saints don't really have that. They have talent back there. Alvin Kamara is an ageless wonder who is still performing at a very high rate, but he's not really a running back anymore as much as he is a versatile receiver option at the backfield. And Travis Etienne, maybe the plan is, hey, we're going to really take away carries from Alvin Kamara and focus them on Etienne. I understand that thought process, but I don't understand paying Etienne that much money. Now, it pretty much is only a 2-year contract. You can get out of that relatively fast, but I look at 2 years as very important, as those are the Kellen Moore defining years. If he does not have a winning record by the end of that time, he will be fired as the head coach. And I just don't look at Etienne as the type of guy you really bring in to boost your roster to that level. I understand the thought process. Hey, Kellen Moore had Saquon Barkley and it was amazing. He had Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas. He was really good. He had so much going for him with those two. Let's bring him in a running back like that. The problem is, Etienne isn't on that level. Maybe if you went the draft route, and I'm not saying that every draft pick is going to be immediately amazing, but I don't think there's a major difference between Jadarian Price and Travis Etienne, especially for the contract Travis Etienne signed, and you look at the age and everything. I would rather have Jadarian Price than Travis Etienne, and that's really where I'm boiling down to is I think the Saints mishandled their funds in free agency. Instead of going out and bringing someone that I think can impact the roster for 4 years and really help you out, they made a splash-type move thinking it's going to help them win right now, which I don't think this roster's in that position yet. Now, they also brought in Ryan Wright, who is a punter, and Noah Fant. And Noah Fant is someone that I got to bite the bullet on. I was really wrong this draft year. I thought he was going to be tremendous. But he's been a very solid tight end going to place after place. He was fine in Seattle. He was fine in Cincinnati. And he'll most likely be fine in New Orleans. He is not a lead tight end, in my opinion, especially anymore. But he can be a receiving option that can get the ball to, and he's got a big frame, so Tyler Shuck's not fully accurate getting the ball to him. He can make a play on the ball. Now, they did lose some players, and I got to touch on this. Demario Davis, talk about ageless wonders, has been playing at such a high level for such a ridiculous time frame in New Orleans that it's insane. Well, he heads off to the Jets, but I'm not going to blame them for not paying a 37-year-old linebacker $11 million a year. And Alontae Taylor, who I think is talented, yes, but I don't know if I'd pay him pretty much close to $20 million a year. I feel like those are two things that, yeah, you lost them, it kind of sucks, but it's not the end of the world. And everyone else, Foster Moreau, he's nothing amazing. Jonah Williams, Jonathan Bullard, Luke Fortner, Jack Stroll, Landon Young. Nothing else really is going to affect them in the guys they lost category. But I think it should be noted that Demario Davis was such an impactful member of their defense that it's going to be very interesting to see how their defense evolves without him. The Saints had a very fun draft to me, as in I see some really good positives, I see some question marks, and some players I just wasn't as high on as everyone else was, but I see a direction that they were going. And I want to say Jordan Tyson for last because I think he's the biggest storyline I can really talk about here. Christian Miller, the D tackle from Georgia, talented guy. I thought he was actually going to be the first defensive tackle drafted because his play archetype really fits in that. I had guys ranked above him, but as a nose tackle who can really do good attacking the pads, getting into people's chests, I think that's a fine second-round pick. He wasn't someone that ever blew me away, but I always felt like he was a stabilizing unit for Georgia, and that's not a bad thing at all to draft in the second round. Oscar Delp. Delp is an athlete that has potential to really pop at the NFL level. He has very good speed to beat linebackers, and he has good hands to catch the ball. I like him a lot, and you can clearly see he's got the toughness. He's got the want to become a better blocker than what he currently is, which I think is a major thing. You can have a tight end that has the ability to maybe become a blocker, but they have to have the want, and Oscar Delp very clearly has the want. Jeremiah Wright from Auburn. I mean, he was fine in the run game. I really didn't care for him in the pass game whatsoever, but in the run game, he was good at the point of attack, could really push guys around. I just don't really think he's got much as a pass blocker, and in the modern NFL, you need to be able to pass block. Bryce Lance. This is probably my favorite pick that they made because I loved Bryce Lance. Bryce Lance is a talented receiver that is honestly Christian Watson 2.0. Now, Christian Watson gets a bad rap because he's had so many injuries, but when he plays for the Packers, that team is eons better. He's not on the field. And I think Bryce Lance can have a major impact on the Saints offense as a whole and can probably move up the depth chart really fast. He's a good blocker. He can be out in run plays. He can be out there as the deep threat. He has some good route running ability. He's got a lot of talent that I really think Kellen Moore is going to be able to utilize to the fullest potential. Lorenzo Styles Jr., the brother of Sonny Styles. And, I mean, he's fine. He is a very interesting player as where you see the athletic traits really pop, but his play recognition ability and his really lack of hip movement, and I know that's weird when you say he's a really good athlete, he is, but he doesn't have the best side-to-side ability, and I think that's really crucial for a safety. I am honestly curious to see with what they do with him. I like him more as a special teams type player than on the field in general, and I think that's perfectly fine. He's got good speed, can get downfield, can make those plays. Just don't really trust him if he gets to a shifty part of the game. Barion Brown, I'm really curious to see how they utilize him. I wasn't the biggest fan of him at the wide receiver position, but I really did like him as a special teamer, as a return man. I think he was actually the best return man in this draft class, has good speed, has just a good ability to see open holes and take advantage of that. But it's going to be very interesting to see how he adjusts the NFL kickoff rules, which are more of a run play than a normal kickoff that we see in college. So it's going to be curious to see how he adjusts to that. But as a punt returner, I think he's got some really good talent there. And TJ Hall, I honestly didn't watch that much of. Now, coming up to Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson, the football player, when he's on the field, I think is an absolute stud. But I have two concerns with the Saints drafting him. Number one, his injury history. And I know people will say it's not the same injury over and over again. Yeah, that's honestly worse in my opinion, that it's different injuries happening every other year. It's not just one part of his body that's getting weakened, it's multiple parts of his body. And if that comes into effect, you have a regression curve that can come much quicker as your body breaks down faster. And you can just have the risk of him not being on the field, and that's not what you want for the 8th overall pick of a draft. He is an outstandingly talented receiver. I am not going to badmouth his receiving ability whatsoever. If he was healthy, odds are he would have been my number one wide receiver in this past draft class. But he wasn't healthy. And when you look at how many draft picks you can make in the safe and risk aspect of it, the risk with Jordan Tyson is he doesn't play a lot of football for your team because he's on the sideline. And the best gameplay ability is availability. And that's a risk you have when you draft a guy with an injury history like Jordan Tyson. But like I said, when he's on the football field, he is a special receiving talent. The other thing I do want to comment on is him and Chris Olave are the exact same player. I really don't know how they're going to utilize them both in the field at the same time, as they do the exact same thing right. And maybe that's telling us something, that they're going to look to trade Chris Olave, as he has a major history of concussions and he has a pretty good sized contract. So maybe they're going to look to move off him, get some draft capital to come in, and Jordan Tyson takes over that role full time, which wouldn't shock me all that much, and I think would actually be a relatively smart move for the Saints. But I just don't know if that's the direction they're going to go in. But overall, Jordan Tyson is a talented player that, if he plays good football for the Saints, and if he's on the field, will make an impact for them and help them figure out how good Tyler Shough truly is. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not high on the Saints team altogether. I think it's a competitive roster that can give some team fits, but can I see them contending for the division title? No, I don't. I think they'll be last place in their division by a good bit, and that's fine because this team's far from built. They need more high-end talent that they just lack in general. Tyler Shough, I'm going to be honest, I am a lot lower on him than everyone else. Now, I understand he had some good moments last year, and he deserves the right to start a full season. But I think some people are overhyping him a little bit much, because it's not like he set the world on fire. He was adequate, and adequate is good. It's probably better than what Saints fans have been used to since Drew Brees has retired, considering Carr has been their best quarterback since, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. But I don't look at Tyler Shough and think he's established himself as a legitimate answer at the quarterback position, especially the fact he is an older prospect still and won't have as much development as, say, other prospects will have. But you can also look at this team and say, they didn't give him a lot of talent last year, and they did a good job of bringing in talent to really analyze him, figure him out this year. They brought in Jordan Tyson. They brought in Travis Etienne. Even though those picks, I see flaw with them. I see flaw in signing Travis Etienne to the contract they did. And I do see a flaw with drafting Jordan Tyson at 8 with his injury history and how he's going to play with Chris Olave. But at the end of the day, I understand it, because you need to figure out the quarterback position. And if Tyler Shough isn't the answer, you're entering in a quarterback draft that's pretty loaded, and you will have most likely a top 10 pick to capitalize on that with. Now, if Shough is the answer, and say this team is still not there yet, you can utilize that pick to either trade down to a team wanting to move up to get a quarterback, or you can draft a high-end talent to really help stabilize your roster. Overall, I don't really think the Saints are close yet, just because they have so many holes. Their secondary, I'm not a fan of. They have to replace Demario Davis, who is an absolute stud even at his age, which is insane for the level of play he was putting up at that age at the linebacker position. But this team just needs talent. It's not there yet, which is fine, but they need at least a year or two before they're ready to contend for a division title or even really make the playoffs, in my opinion. I'd like to say thank you very much for watching the video. If you like this video, hit the like button if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to see more season team previews, I'm doing 32 in 32 days, 32 NFL team previews in 32 consecutive days. So I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. If you have any opinions on the Saints, comment down below, and I hope you all have an amazing day.